News Radio 700 WLW.
Rock, this Alec Baldwin thing, how long has this been going on? This has been going on at least a couple of years, right? Maybe
this has
going on
been
3 years, maybe?
Yeah, seriously. Feels like it was yesterday, but it's been lingering a while. And, if you don't know, he was on the set filming that Western movie, and one of the scenes called for him to, have a gun and shoot. And
Right.
There was an armorer on that movie set, as there is on every movie set, to make sure there's safety with firearms. Somehow something didn't go right, and an actual live round was in this gun, and it killed that poor woman. That camera woman.
And so it looked like they weren't going to charge him, and now they're charging him. I'm not really sure.
That's what I can't understand about the legal process is when, how many times can he be charged, and what is the latest?
Well, you know what? Let's get a guy who knows more than we do. I would assume, now, Jeremy Rosenthal, we would assume you know more about us. We're common folk here. We're just talk show hosts. You, sir, are a former prosecutor who is now a defense attorney and board certified in the state of Texas, and have been given the distinction of being the top 1% of Texas lawyers. Is that correct, sir?
Well, it depends on who you ask. I don't know. I do like to talk about how many push-ups I can do, but let's do that.
Let's ask does your mom think you're one of the top 1%, Jeremy? Let's put it that way.
Well, there we go. Yes, don't ask questions we don't want the answers to also. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So, Jeremy, break this down for us. How it looked like that.
1 year ago, he was charged with involuntary manslaughter. And charges were dropped.
It seemed to be, right?
Now charged again. What's the story?
Right. Okay. So my understanding is there was the VA in Santa Fe gives this to a special prosecutor. This special prosecutor was a state legislator, and they have, they're always running for office. They're campaigning. Alec Baldwin's lawyers said, "Wait a minute, you're trying to, you have a lot to gain here by convicting us." And she, I think, took a look around and said, "You know what? You're right. I don't want anything to do with this case." And so she stepped aside, but she was the one that I believe initially indicted, and then dismissed. And so what they did is they did some testing on one of the weapons. They did some retesting on it. You've got a new group of prosecutors, and for whatever reason, they're going forward.
So, Jeremy, what Rock and I have talked about this many times. Mm-hmm. On a movie set like that, and it's been the procedure is pretty clear. The mm-hmm. armorer has the gun in their hands. They check it. They go through. They look at it. Blah, blah, blah. They hand it to the actor and say, it's clear. Now, mm-hmm. I've heard a lot of people say, well, he should have checked it again. It's a weapon. Well, somebody handed you a cap gun.
It's a movie prop.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And so how can they charge him when somebody indeed did royally screw up here and put a live bullet mm-hmm. into that gun? How can you charge this guy with that?
I mean, it's a really subjective charge. So involuntary manslaughter is, in New Mexico, it is where you basically commit a misdemeanor offense. In this case, they're saying negligently handle a firearm. And because of that misdemeanor, there's a death that occurs. So, but what does it mean to mishandle a firearm, right? The most lawyers would tell you in most areas, manslaughter or involuntary manslaughter or some type of gross negligence that results in death that triggers criminal liability, it's like driving 100 miles an hour and letting go of the steering wheel. It's got to be that negligent. So what we need, what the prosecution needs here is somebody who says Alec knew there would be a weapon or there would be a live round in there. Now, everything that I've read says that this movie shoot was a frat house party, okay, and that the armorer had a lot of problems. I don't know that gets them where they need to go. It's a great lawsuit. It's a great OSHA violation, but I don't know that it makes it a really good criminal case. And I think, I don't know, maybe the folks in Santa Fe are thinking, we're just going to show everybody on the planet that we're just not going to, give a Hollywood movie star a free pass. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe they think that they want a trial in their town that's a big media circus and all the hotel rooms sell out. I don't know. But we are.
And Jeremy, you made a good point earlier in that, you got people running for office and you got district attorneys and you got this and that. And let's face it, Alec Baldwin is a very controversial figure, right? Sure. So there, if you're on the left, you kind of love him, and if you're on the right, you don't. So do you really think that this could be political, where this is something where someone can run, hey, I'm going to prosecute that dirtbag liberal Alec Baldwin here in order to win votes and win favor? I mean, is that fair to even think about?
I don't see a case like this that gets dismissed and then refiled and then retested. I don't see this happening unless your last name is Alec Baldwin. So Is it politics that's behind it? I don't know. It's really hard to know what folks' agendas are. I mean, you could have a situation where people in charge just don't like Alec Baldwin and they don't like his politics. I would hate to think that that's why they're charging. But on the converse side, you could also have people who are, we're getting a lot of pressure here. They think that we're just bowing down to Hollywood. Well, we're just going to show them that. There's a saying in criminal law, which is you may beat the rat, but you're not going to beat the ride, which is another way of saying that you're going to walk and you're going to get acquitted here, but we're going to make you feel this. Right. So I think that I wonder if that's what's going on.
Yeah, well, it's certainly within the realm of possibility. I mean, look what they're doing with Donald Trump. You got district attorneys in Georgia and all this trying to drum up all these charges, a lot of it very politically driven. So it's certainly a possibility. Jeremy, let me ask you this, though. And this is where the public doesn't really understand the ins and outs of the law of, okay, there's a trial, and then it gets dismissed, and then there's appeal, and then there's another appeal, and no one can really keep track of how many times can they appeal this thing, how many times can they change the charges, when is this thing, or when will we know it's done, or can it go on forever?
Okay, great question. Everybody's heard of double jeopardy, right?
Yes.
Double jeopardy means that you can't be prosecuted twice. Ridiculously complicated concept, but what happens in a criminal case is we have to have what's called jeopardy attaching. And what that means is that you can get prosecuted, and then if they dismiss the case, usually before a jury or a judge starts hearing the actual facts, or a jury gets sworn, jeopardy has not attached. Once a jury is in the box, jeopardy will attach that, and if he is acquitted at that point, or if it's dismissed at that point, then there's no coming back. But the prosecution here has also made another decision here that they're probably going to get to answer for. That is, there's speedy trial analysis. I don't know that Baldwin's lawyers are going to play this or not. But when you have, it's triggered usually from the time of arrest, or it can be triggered from the time that you're indicted. They indicted him once. And I think what was going to happen was they knew they were going to lose. So they dismissed it. They made a strategic decision to dismiss the case. We as Americans have a right to a speedy trial. And we have the right to not have the government change the charges and change it. And, oh, you know what? No. We think we're going to lose next week. We better dismiss it and bring it back. Jeopardy won't attach. But that's your remedy is that you can file you can have the judge toss the indictment out based on the speedy trial. Whether Baldwin's lawyers do that or not, I don't know. I mean, I suspect those guys are going to know what they're doing. But there's a couple of avenues here for Baldwin to kind of be aggressive with this.
And what might that be, Jeremy?
Well, demand a speedy trial and file a motion to dismiss it for speedy trial. Also, I mean, you've got so what happened initially in the case was the Department of Justice did they did some ballistics on this weapon, and it's an old weapon, right? It's from the 1800s. They did their ballistics on it. They actually broke the thing. They broke several parts of the thing. They came and determined that you can fire this weapon accidentally. Baldwin says that he cocked the hammer and then it went off. And they said that could have happened here. They retested it in Arizona. When they retested it, they did it with replacement parts. I mean, that's really okay. Fine. Why not? So they said no. You had to pull the trigger, Alec Baldwin. Therefore, you're lying. So you, at a minimum, you're going to have competing. If I'm Alec Baldwin's lawyer, I'm putting the Department of Justice ballistics experts on the witness stands. How many times does a criminal lawyer get to put on the Department of Justice's experts to say your guy's innocent? So not only that, even if everything that the prosecution is saying is true, even if Alec Baldwin had to have pulled the trigger, there's no evidence anywhere that he knew that it was a round in the weapon. So we're back in the same place.
Yeah, I didn't like when, and I'm sure he was told by his lawyers to say that he didn't pull the trigger, just kind of went off. I feel like that was a bad move. Like, guns, for the vast most part, never can go off unless someone pulls the trigger. I don't know what would have been the difference in him saying, look, I pulled the trigger because, we're in a movie and I am given what I thought is a prop gun, so I pulled the trigger on it. I just felt like that kind of makes it look like he's trying to fib a little bit or hide something. I don't know. I guess that can be reviewed and for a long time.
Generally speaking, the less your client talks, the better. For this exact reason, But you got a guy who's a public figure, and he made the decision that it's more important that the PR be right about it, which, whatever. I don't know who the man's listening to, and maybe at the end of the day he'll be right. But yeah, the more your guy says, the worse, typically.
Jeremy Rosenthal is our guest, and so Jeremy, let's say this thing is, I don't know, in the long term dismissed or that he's found not guilty or whatnot. Does he have any recourse to turn around and sue for improper prosecution, for a lack of a better way to put it?
It's really hard. There's a lawsuit that's any lawyers who are listening to your show. It's a federal lawsuit. It's called 42 U.S.C. Section 1983. That's a federal statute, and it's a statute that it basically is more often than not it's police brutality. It's got to be a really bad deprivation of rights, and you got it's smoking. Well, pardon the pun. It's smoking gun bad, right? It's really, really hard to sue prosecutors. It's hard to sue public officials, okay. and candidly, if we really think about this in soul search, we don't want them. We don't want prosecutors sued. We don't want them to, because they don't have one case to handle. They have 100 cases to handle, and we don't want them to worry about their own livelihoods. So it's a bit of a slippery slope. I suppose anything's possible. I can't speak to what his remedies may be in the state of New Mexico. I suspect it's going to be really difficult for him to get somewhere edgewise. Then again, he's the rare exception that's going to have some resources to potentially do that.
Well, in the meantime, even as these charges are brought up, they're draining him daily. I mean, look, these lawyers, like yourself, are not low paid, man. You're the best of the best, right? So that's gonna hurt him if nothing else in the pocketbook, right?
Well, anytime a lawyer gets paid, an angel gets their wings.
I knew it. Yes, I set you up for that, and you dunked it. Good.
We can never be too angry at lawyers here. Okay, let's be honest. Let's just be realistic here. Okay.
You are God's representatives on earth.
Yes.
Who might have argue about this? But being prosecuted like this, it really does take a toll. It takes a toll. Whether you've got ice in your veins, it takes years off your life. So there's that. Now maybe he takes this seriously. I'm sure they've got his full attention. But yeah, it's painful. It can be painful for sure.
With that, Jeremy, we will let you go, man. Thanks so much. That was really good. I really appreciate you joining us. Jeremy Rosenthal, we will have you back, I hope, in the near future.
Thanks, guys. Love it. Have a good time. Go Rangers.